Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for this for your time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present a body of research I'm working with, and for that purpose, I'm going to start talking about my framework and also what's coming in terms of research that I'm trying to accomplish with USF. First of all, why count me in? Career and technical education has evolved in two senses. First, the breadth and depth is different from what it started. And second, the way we count people that participate in career and technical education has also changed. And this is important for policy programs and fundings. When the act that funded career and technical education started in 1917, we were basically talking about 4 courses. But now we have 16 career clusters and 16 career pathways, 64 career pathways. So career and technical education is completely different. It's no longer home economics, it's no longer industrial arts, it's no longer agriculture and trades, but it's rather a complex set of courses and programs that the students are using. Look at those data. About 80% of students in the cohort of 2013 earned at least 1 CTE credit. And that's very important because that takes the issue of the rule particularly. I don't know if you see the rule here, the 50, 25, 25 takes it off of the picture and comes to a different view, which is the one that is depicted in the right side of this slide. So students are not going only on vocational education or in academic trends. It's more complex now. It's more, it's different, and the way we count has to change too. Up to 2010, the federal government was still considering a CTE student as the student that took 3 or more Carnegie units in CTE and less than 12 credits. That's not possible anymore. Most of these states require at least 13 credits in academic courses for all students to graduate. And on top of that, they can take a set of courses in elective and CTE courses. So we need to change the way that we measure students in CTE to have a better picture. This is the way. And this is part of the results that I already have in my research before coming here. 8% of the students only take no CTE credits at all in the country. So that tells you a lot how much CTE has changed and how we need to approach CTE in a different manner. So in terms of what's coming up in terms of my research, we need to also to consider that 44% of students take at least 3 credits in CTE. That's unheard of, and we need to be looking at those data. Now, in terms of the research and the results and the outcomes that we are looking at, one of the issues is that it has changed also how students are approaching CTE. There is more data here, more students in highest socioeconomic status are taking CTE credits, more students taking advanced science and math are taking CTE credits. So those are the things that are changing already. In a paper that I'm working on, I'm talking about the effect of CTE on dropouts of high school. Students taking 3 or more CTE credits are less likely to drop out of school than those taking less than 3 CTE credits. That's a direct effect of the new way students are taking advantage of career and technical education. But we also need to look with different data sets, like the high school longitudinal study, about the participation of students in career and technical education. Why? Because we are looking at CTE in different ways, even now. There is a talk of career pathways, and there are efforts in career pathways, but it's also, we're reaching out to middle schools. On top of that, there are several mechanisms that schools are using, like industry-recognized credentials. They are supposed to give students the tools to get employment right after high school, but they are also helping students to get jobs or admissions to post-secondary degree programs. And we, again, there is a lot of unknown in those areas. Another area is work-based learning. And in general, like apprenticeships, job shadowing, what's happening now with COVID and all these new conditions, but also what's happening with high school apprenticeships. States are investing money on those issues, and we don't know exactly what's happening. In terms of post-secondary non-degree options, we need to look at apprenticeships and also how successful the students are in terms of getting employment. And the other question, are they getting employment in the field they were studying for? So it's very much complex, and there are the good thing is there are different data sets at the national level that we can use for that. And in terms of post-secondary degree options, we also look at the enrollment in post-secondary 2-year and 4-year colleges, and we look at the persistence in the field and whether these students are able to finish their degrees. There are a couple of other issues that I like to explore, but I don't know if this is going to be in the next 1 or 2 years. But one of them maybe is how schools are offering career and technical education. If you look at the school districts in the Tampa area, they offer career and technical education in a different way of what other states are offering career and technical education. And the other one is something that I just talked about, which is the role of counselors. Counselors in different surveys and in different research are showing to have a very critical importance for students enrollment in career and technical education. And finally, another paper that is coming up looks at the general perception. Has the perception of people changed with all these changes in career and technical education? It looks like it has changed a little bit. And there are still some areas about academic preparation that about which families and different stakeholders still think that is not good enough. But anyway, here's what I have and what I'm trying to do, and here's where you can find me. Thank you.
Thank you, Oscar. Again, I think, Oscar, was this your first time doing a Pecha Kucha presentation?
That's it. Yes, it's the first time.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yep, there you go. Thanks. Let's see. What questions or comments do we have for Oscar? Arlene, I see your hand up.
Yeah. Welcome to USF, Oscar. I know it's kind of late. If we were in the office, I'm sure I would have seen you sooner. I have a question. Well, how do you I don't know how to, I'm going to phrase it and I'll try to be gentle, but with the big push toward STEM education and getting students in the STEM fields, and now you're talking about the CTE, I almost feel like it's not a competition, but it's a different direction. The big thrust used to be towards STEM, and now CTE. I mean, this sounds great. When I was in high school many, many years ago, it was always the counselors were pushing us to go to college, and anything other than CTE or even the military, which one of my brothers had to because he was not college material. But how do you deal with this? Is it the counselors? Is this where it starts, that there is another option other than STEM, or what?
Well, first of all, there is an overlap between career and technical education and CTE, and STEM offerings and concerns. Think about, for instance, healthcare and information technology. There is a lot of overlap, and actually, some of the school districts have really a hard time trying to figure out if they should qualify those courses as CTE courses or if they should keep them as regular academic courses. Computer science is another example that comes through, and engineering or architecture. But so those are courses that should come also as, or could be counted as career and technical education. My daughter my daughter in her last year of high school a couple of years ago, she took a class in anatomy, for instance, and the idea was that she would take the class as an academic class, but it was actually classified as CTE class because it would lead to healthcare programs. So there is that overlap, and there is a lot of conversations about how to become more integrated in terms of teaching. How do we address that? Well, we need to start earlier. And I am not, excuse me, I am not suggesting that we should move completely career and technical education down to middle school grades, for instance, but we need to have there some sort of STEM classes from which students can learn the basics and from which they can make a decision when they go to high school. Do I want an engineering career, or do I want a career in cybersecurity issues, for instance, for which I have learned how to code in middle school? So those are the things that we need to do. And in terms of advising, I think it's more complex than just letting the responsibility in counselors. I think we need to convey the message that CTE is productive in many ways, also to get a post-secondary degree. We need to convey that idea to stakeholders, including families and business partners, because otherwise it's always going to be seen as either or.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed your presentation.
Yeah.
And thank you for welcoming words.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you, Arlene, for your question. Great question.